Recently I came into the possession of this Tulwar, and although I'm familiar with Chinese weapons, this is actually my first Indian sword, its point of origin clearly inscribed on the blade. Right now, it's in desperate need of some TLC, but coming into contact with this sword prompted me to do this video on the influence of India on my tarot deck. This journey begins during the era of colonial Jamaica, in which more than 36,000 Indians came to the island as indentured laborers. This is between the years 1845 to 1917. The abolition of slavery led to a labor shortage for the British, who were unable to entice other Europeans with these job opportunities, so they turned to the Chinese and the Indians, who were more willing. Even though it would appear that some of them didn't know exactly what they were signing up for. Most of the Indians who came to the island originated from northern India, with a smaller percentage from the south. Interestingly, the indentured Indian workers were actually paid less than the West African people who were formerly enslaved because of wage laws that were passed. Ultimately, about 2/3 of the laborers who came decided that they would remain there permanently on the island, mostly because it was expensive to return to India, but also because the government provided incentives such as land and repatriation for their services. The current Indian diaspora consists of around 70,000 people, and they make up roughly 3% of the population, the third largest ethnic group in Jamaica, the largest, of course, being the African descendants, followed by people of mixed ancestry. I'm Wayne from Rodney Illustrations, creator of the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot, published by US Games Systems, and today we're going to be talking about the influence of India on the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot. So, go pour yourself a hot cup of chai, and let's go! Later on in the 20th century, after the period of indentureship ended, merchants from India ventured to Jamaica for reasons of commerce, similar to what took place within the Arab and Chinese diaspora. Overall, the Indian community has assimilated into the island to a large degree, while retaining close connections to India and its customs. Fun facts: India introduced jackfruit, tamarind, mango, and a variety of other plants and trees to the island, as well as curry, roti, and other culinary delights to Jamaican cuisine, as well as the use of a well-known plant that was used for sacramental and religious purposes, which would later be adopted by Rastafarians. So, as far as my journey where the culture of India itself is concerned, well, I was in my early 20s when I was introduced to yoga, and at that point in my life, I was very much a vegetarian. I was still in art school studying painting. I was very active as a student in the Chinese martial arts, and it was at a point in time where I was looking for a deeper spiritual connection because I felt that I wasn't really getting that from the Roman Catholic viewpoint that I was raised with. So, coinciding with all that, there just happened to be an establishment that I was introduced to called Ananda Marga, which is a worldwide socio-spiritual organization that was founded in Jamalpur, Bihar, India in 1955 by Sri Sri Anandamurti. Their system is a branch of tantric yoga that emphasizes on the practice of meditation to liberate the mind from darkness and expand it. This wasn't my first introduction into Eastern philosophy because, as I said, I was already studying the Chinese martial arts, but with this introduction into yoga, I felt like it dove into its own unique way upon some of these ideas that were not as prevalent at the time, like transmigration of souls, the nature of vibration, the principle of mentalism, etc. And I also got to see how some of these concepts that I was aware of from Chinese philosophy were actually synonymous with concepts behind prana and chi. At some point, I was initiated into that system, which was really a life-changing experience. And although I'm no longer affiliated with that organization, I think it's important to recognize that it was a part of shaping how I perceive the world. So now let's look at how this was all then depicted in the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot. Okay, so the Indians that came to Jamaica were primarily Hindu and to a lesser extent Muslim, so Within the Global Fusion deck, I've incorporated some of the deities and some of the lore from that region. For example, I've depicted Ganesh in the upper left corner of the Two of Gems as one of the deities overseeing the events transpiring. Then there is also the depiction of the Jinn, which appears in the Four of Gems card. Some of the other references to the influence of India in the cards are the Magician, who is wearing dreadlocks, just like the Fool, but while the Fool card is a reference to Rastafarianism, the Magician card is a nod to Indian sadhus, which is a branch of Hinduism. In this depiction, the sadhu has been fused with the characteristics of the Western ceremonial magician, not for eccentricity's sake, but rather to illustrate that different paths can lead to the same place, whether those paths are approached independently by a practitioner or whether they find some way to make them converge syncretically. In the minor arcana, we see the lady in the Seven of Vessels seated in Padmasana, also known as the lotus posture, and she is holding the Vayana Mudra to calm herself and alleviate her anxiety. In that same suit, we have the contrast of the youthful and the mature figures from the Knave of Vessels, both iterations of a man of Indian descent. Elsewhere, in the suit of Blades, we also have the lady in the card number 6 of that suit, who is also of Indian descent. And in that same suit, we have the primordial energy of Shakti manifesting as Kali in the Knight of Blades. In card 9 of the Major Arcana, the figure in the Hermit card was actually based on a friend of mine who was of Indian ancestry. And then, in card 20 of the Majors, we can see the 7 chakra system depicted in the Revelation card. There are other references, but I'll leave it up to the astute observer to detect them. And with that, we conclude today's video. Thank you for your time. I'm Wayne from Rodney Illustration, and links to the Global Fusion Intuitive Tarot deck are in the description of this video. Please remember to like and subscribe. Peace and blessings.